I never thought I'd be the guy who finds out his wife is cheating. I always pictured myself as the faithful husband, the one who found happiness in the little things, like our Saturday morning coffee rituals or the way she'd laugh at my terrible jokes. My name is Mark, and this is my story about the day my life turned upside down and how I found my way back. It all started over the summer. The sun was shining and everything seemed perfect. Anna, my wife, had just hit a new stride at work and I was proud of her. But with her success came a change in her demeanor. The late nights became more frequent and I felt like I was living with a stranger. She'd come home tired, but not the kind of tired that made you want to curl up and watch a movie. No, this was a different kind of exhaustion, one that felt laced with secrets. I could sense a shift, but I brushed it off as her work stress. I mean, who wouldn't be a little off-kilter when they're chasing a dream? Then came the little things. Her phone was always face down and she was suddenly protective of her texts. I tried to ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut, telling myself I was being paranoid. But the nagging sense that something was wrong only grew stronger when I noticed her constant excuses. I'll be late from the office. I have a dinner meeting, or the classic, I'm meeting up with friends. Friends I never seemed to know. It made my heart sink, but I wanted to believe in her. Things took a turn one Thursday night. I was in the living room going through our mail when I stumbled upon a package that wasn't addressed to me. It had Anna's name on it, but it was labeled for delivery. Curiosity got the better of me and I opened it. Inside was a brand new pair of shoes. My heart raced as I saw the brand. They were expensive, something Anna would never buy without good reason. And then I noticed the delivery slip. The name of the mailman was right there. Jake, it said. I felt a sickening twist in my stomach. As I pieced things together, I remembered Anna's late-night work commitments and the way she'd giggle when her phone buzzed with a text. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to confront her. The thought of my wife, the woman I loved, being unfaithful was unbearable, but I needed closure one way or another. When Anna came home that night, I was waiting for her. The moment she stepped through the door, I knew I had to ask her about Jake. I felt my heart pounding in my chest as I made my way to the living room, ready to confront her. I waited until she settled in. Her usual smile turned into a frown as she saw my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with concern that I had long ceased to believe. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. "We need to talk about Jake," I said, watching her face change instantly. For a moment she looked confused and I felt a flicker of hope that I might be wrong. But then her facade cracked. "Mark, I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, but the tremor in her voice said otherwise. I laid the evidence before her, the shoes, the delivery slip, and watched as her expression shifted from confusion to rage. "You went through my things," she spat, the anger spilling like venom. "How dare you?" I wasn't prepared for her reaction. I had expected her to confess, to show some semblance of remorse. Instead, she became defensive, throwing out the same old excuses. "It's just a friend. And you're being paranoid." I felt a surge of frustration mixed with heartbreak. How could she lie to my face like that? But as the anger boiled inside me, I knew that I had to keep my composure. I didn't want to let her see how deeply this was affecting me. I had to remain rational, even as she tried to twist the narrative. As the confrontation escalated, it became clear that this was no longer about shoes or late-night meetings. It was a deeper betrayal, one that cut into the very fabric of our relationship. I felt the walls closing in, and the weight of her deception began to suffocate me. I never imagined I would be in this position, confronting the woman I had built a life with. After the dust settled, I found myself lost in a whirlwind of emotions. The shock of her betrayal was overwhelming. It felt like every happy moment we shared was suddenly tainted, turned into a bitter memory. I didn't know how to process it. Part of me wanted to fight for her, to salvage what we had, but another part of me screamed that I deserved better. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, a question started to form in my mind. What do I do now? I felt like I was standing at a crossroads and every path seemed daunting. Would I confront her again? Would I try to work through this? Or was it time to pack my bags and leave? The next morning I woke up with a heavy heart. The sun peeked through the blinds, illuminating the room in a harsh light that felt almost mocking. I could still hear Anna's sharp words from last night echoing in my head. "You're being paranoid," she had shouted, and the bitterness felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. I wanted to shake it off, to get back to my life, but everything felt shattered. As I went through the motions of getting ready for work, I kept glancing at Anna, who was sitting at the breakfast table, scrolling through her phone. I had never felt so distant from her. The moments we used to share over breakfast now felt like a chore, an obligation to maintain the facade of a happy couple. I watched her, searching for signs of remorse or guilt, but there was nothing. She seemed more concerned about her social media notifications than the looming crisis between us. After a silent breakfast, I drove to work, my mind racing. I couldn't focus on anything. All I could think about was Jake, the mailman who had crept into our lives and shattered my trust. I imagined their interactions, her smiling at him as he delivered letters, the way her eyes lit up when she laughed. The thought of her with another man felt like fire coursing through my veins, igniting a deep-seated anger that I didn't know how to handle. At work, I struggled to concentrate. My colleagues noticed my distraction, but I brushed off their concerns with vague excuses. I couldn't bring myself to share what was happening at home. It was too humiliating, too raw. I was increasingly aware that the world around me continued to turn while my own life felt frozen. That evening, I decided to confront Anna again. I wasn't going to let her brush this under the rug. I needed answers. As I walked through the door, I could tell she was already on edge. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Mark, can we not do this again?" she said, her voice rising defensively as I entered. "I need you to be honest with me, Anna," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "This isn't just about Jake and those stupid shoes. This is about our marriage." She rolled her eyes, a habit that now infuriated me. "You're being dramatic. It's just a few texts. You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" I shouted, the anger bubbling over. "You think I'm overreacting? You're lying to me and I deserve the truth." She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry for asking questions? That I should just accept what's happening?" "Because that's not going to happen." Her expression shifted. For a moment, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes, and it made me feel slightly vindicated. I was clearly getting to her, but I also felt like I was losing myself in the anger. "Mark, it's not what you think," she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "Then what is it?" I demanded. "Tell me the truth, Anna. Are you having an affair?" She hesitated, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "It's complicated," she finally said, her words dripping with a mix of annoyance and defiance. "Jake is just a friend, okay? He's been there for me when you've been busy with work. He understands me in ways you don't." That stung. "So you're saying that it's my fault, that I didn't provide you what you needed?" "No, that's not what I mean," she exclaimed, her frustration boiling over. "You're just not home enough, and I needed someone to talk to." I felt the ground shift beneath me. "So you found comfort in another man. You think that's okay?" She didn't respond, but I could see the wheels turning in her head, the justifications battling against the reality of her actions. It was painful to watch, a woman I loved desperately trying to find words that would absolve her. "Anna, if you're being honest with me, if Jake is just a friend, why the secrecy? Why all the lies?" I pressed, my heart racing. "I didn't want to hurt you," she shot back, but it felt hollow. "I'm already hurt, Anna. You've hurt me more than you know." My voice cracked, and I felt the tears welling as the anger faded into sadness. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." She sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I could see that she was trying to think of something to say, but the truth hung heavily in the air between us. "I don't want to lose you, Mark," she finally whispered, but the words felt like a hollow promise. How could I trust her now? How could we move forward from this? That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, oblivious to my turmoil. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, trapped in a reality where everything I thought I knew had crumbled. The betrayal cut deep, and the trust that once held us together was shattered. I had to make a choice, but I didn't know where to start. I realized I needed a plan, a way to take control of my life again. The question was, what would that plan look like? Would I fight for our marriage, or was it time to start anew? The thought of starting over was terrifying, but I also knew I deserved better than this. I just had to figure out how to reclaim my happiness. The following days melded into a blur of uncertainty and heartache. I was trapped in a cycle of anger and sadness, replaying the confrontation over and over in my mind. Each time, it felt like a different version of the same nightmare. Anna continued to act as if everything was normal, expecting me to return to the husband I once was, but I felt like a ghost in my own home. I found myself withdrawing more and more. I stopped engaging in conversations with her, opting instead to focus on work and my hobbies. I threw myself into my job, staying late, volunteering for extra projects, anything to avoid coming home to the tension that hung in the air like a dark cloud. My colleagues noticed and tried to reach out, but I brushed off their concern. I was a man with a secret, and it felt better to be alone with my thoughts than to open up about my crumbling life. After a week of silence between us, I decided it was time to take action. I needed to confront the situation head-on. I wanted to make her understand the weight of her betrayal, but I also needed to find my own path forward. I would not let her have the power to dictate my emotions or my future. I scheduled a trip for the weekend, a friend's cabin in the mountains that I had visited before. I approached Anna that Friday evening, her eyes lighting up as she prepared for dinner. "Hey, I was thinking we could get away for the weekend. Just the two of us," I said, trying to keep my tone light. She raised an eyebrow, her interest piqued but cautious. "Really? Where?" "Just a cabin up in the mountains. It'll be good for us to disconnect for a bit," I replied, gauging her reaction. "Are you sure you want to spend time together?" "I mean, things have been tense," she stated, her tone cautious. "Exactly. I think we need the time to talk, to figure things out," I replied, my heart racing. She hesitated, and I sensed her reluctance. "Okay, if you think that will help." As we drove up to the cabin the next day, the scenery shifted from the hustle and bustle of city life to the serene beauty of the mountains. The air felt cleaner, and for a moment I thought maybe we could use this time to rekindle the spark we once had. Once we arrived, I unpacked our things while Anna busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a simple meal. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, casting a warm glow in the room. I tried to relax, but my mind was racing with thoughts of how to approach the conversation I needed to have. After dinner, we sat on the porch, the cool mountain air wrapping around us. The stars began to twinkle above us, and for a fleeting moment everything felt right, but I knew I couldn't let the moment distract me. "Anna, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady. Her demeanor changed immediately. "What now?" she asked, a hint of defensiveness creeping in. "I think we both know we can't just ignore what happened," I said. "You need to understand how your actions impacted me. I can't just brush this aside." She looked away, her gaze fixed on the ground. "I know I messed up, Mark, but it wasn't what you think. I was confused, and Jake was just someone I could talk to when you weren't around." "Confused? You mean you chose to go to another man instead of talking to me?" I asked, the frustration bubbling again. "If you were feeling neglected, why didn't you come to me? Why did you choose dishonesty?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I thought I could handle it on my own." "But you didn't handle it, did you? You chose the easy way out instead of working through your issues with me." "I know that now," she shot back, her voice rising. "But at the time it felt easier to talk to someone else. It was a mistake and I regret it." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Regret doesn't change what you did, Anna. You broke my trust, and I don't know if we can recover from this." Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of compassion. "Mark, I love you. I never meant for it to go this far. I just felt so alone, and Jake was there. I didn't think it would mean anything." The admission hung in the air like a heavy fog. I could see the genuine remorse in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. I had been the one left in the dark while she sought comfort elsewhere. I felt the anger and betrayal bubbling just beneath the surface, threatening to drown out my compassion. "I need time, Anna. Time to process this and decide what I want," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "I can't promise you anything right now." Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time I saw the fear in her eyes. "I understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible against the wind. I stood up, feeling the weight of the conversation settle on my shoulders. I needed to reclaim my happiness, and the path forward was still shrouded in uncertainty. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let Anna's choices dictate my future. It was time for a change, both for her and for me. As I stared into the vastness of the night sky, I felt a newfound determination igniting within me. I couldn't control what Anna did or how she felt, but I could control how I responded. I was going to live my best life, regardless of the turmoil surrounding me. It was time for me to take charge of my happiness, and that was a promise I was ready to make to myself. The rest of the weekend passed in a haze of contemplation. Anna and I spent time together, but the shadows of our previous conversations loomed over every interaction. We hiked through the mountains, chatted about mundane topics, and tried to enjoy each other's company, but the magic was gone. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, constantly aware of the elephant in the room that neither of us could fully address. As the sun dipped below the horizon on our last night at the cabin, I decided it was time to take a stand. While we sipped wine on the porch, the stars twinkled overhead, each one a reminder of the vastness of the universe and how small our problems felt in comparison. Yet in that moment, our issues felt monumental. "Anna," I began, my voice steady, "I've been thinking a lot about our situation. I need to make some changes in my life starting now." She turned to me, a mixture of hope and fear in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I can't keep pretending everything is okay. I need to prioritize my happiness, and I've realized I can't do that while living in this limbo." Her expression shifted to concern. "What are you saying, Mark?" "I think we need to take a break," I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders with the admission. "Not just a weekend getaway, but a real break to figure out what we want." Her eyes widened, and the wine glass trembled slightly in her hand. "A break? Are you serious?" "Yes, and I need you to understand this is just me running away. I want to take a step back and evaluate if we can rebuild our relationship or if it's better for both of us to go our separate ways." Anna opened her mouth to protest, but then closed it again, the realization settling in. "I don't want to lose you," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "I don't want to lose you either, but I have to look out for myself. I can't keep feeling like I'm second to someone else," I replied, my tone firm yet compassionate. "I need to know what I truly want." The tears pooled in her eyes, and for a moment I saw the woman I fell in love with, the woman who had been lost in the shadows of her own choices. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right, Mark," she said, her voice breaking. "I want to prove to you that I can change. But can you? This isn't just about making promises. It's about rebuilding trust, and that takes time," I said, feeling the weight of her words yet also the reality of our situation. She nodded, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I get that. I'll wait for you however long it takes. Just please don't give up on me." The sincerity in her voice softened my resolve, but I knew I had to stay strong. I still felt the sting of betrayal, and it wasn't something that could be swept under the rug. "I won't give up on you right now, but I need this time to focus on myself. It's not about abandoning our relationship. It's about being honest about where we stand." With that, we decided to go back to the city the next day. I felt a mix of relief and guilt wash over me. It was a necessary step forward, but I was also painfully aware of the uncertainty that lay ahead. When we returned home, the familiarity of our apartment felt suffocating. I knew I needed space to think clearly, so I made arrangements to stay with a close friend for a while. The idea of living apart was daunting, but I felt an unexpected thrill at the thought of reclaiming my independence. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into my job and reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in ages. I started going to the gym, taking care of my physical health, and rediscovering hobbies I had neglected. I even enrolled in a class to learn guitar, something I had always wanted to do. Meanwhile, Anna reached out regularly, sending texts that ranged from remorseful to hopeful. "I miss you," she'd say. "I'm working on myself too." And while I appreciated her attempts to communicate, I needed to remind myself to take my time. I couldn't simply fall back into the patterns that had led us here. During this time apart, I also began to reflect on my own shortcomings. I recognized that while Anna's actions were unforgivable, there were moments in our relationship where I had also failed to be fully present. I had buried myself in work, thinking I was doing the right thing by providing. I had taken her love for granted, and perhaps I had neglected to nurture our bond. As the days turned into weeks, I started to feel a sense of clarity. I realized I didn't have to make a decision right away about our future. I could take my time to figure out what I wanted, whether that meant working on our marriage or moving on. One evening, as I sat with my guitar, strumming a few chords and humming a tune, I felt lighter than I had in months. I was finding joy in the little things again. Then came the unexpected call from Anna. "Can we meet up?" she asked, her voice sounding different, more resolute. "I think we need to talk." I hesitated for a moment. Did I want to reopen that door? But I also knew I needed to hear what she had to say. "Yeah, sure. How about this weekend?" "Perfect. I'll see you then," she replied, and I could sense a mix of determination and vulnerability in her tone. As I hung up the phone, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. What would she say? Had she truly changed? Would this meeting provide the clarity I was looking for, or would it just lead to more questions? I took a deep breath, reminding myself that no matter what happened, I was in control of my own happiness now. No matter where this conversation led, I was ready to face it head on. I was living my best life, and nothing could take that away from me. The days leading up to my meeting with Anna were filled with a mix of anxiety and excitement. I barely slept the night before, my mind racing with possibilities. What if she had truly changed? What if she had a plan for us? Or worse, what if this conversation only opened old wounds and revealed that nothing had really changed? As Saturday approached, I decided to take control of the situation. I wanted to meet in a public place, somewhere casual but also comfortable. A little cafe downtown seemed like the perfect choice, a place with good coffee and a relaxed atmosphere where we could chat without the pressure of being in one another's home. On the day of our meeting, I arrived early to gather my thoughts. I ordered a black coffee and found a small table by the window, watching the people walk by. The cafe buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. I could hear laughter and conversation, yet I felt isolated in my own thoughts. When Anna walked in, my heart raced. She looked different. Her hair was down instead of the usual messy bun, and she wore a simple dress that highlighted her figure. She seemed more composed and confident than I remembered. As our eyes met, I noticed a flicker of vulnerability in her gaze, and it grounded me. "Hey," she said, approaching the table. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "How have you been? Honestly." "It's been a rough few weeks," she admitted, sitting down. "But I've had a lot of time to think, and I've been working on myself. I want to show you that I can change." I nodded, wanting to hear her out. "I'm listening," I said, trying to remain open-minded. "I've been seeing a therapist," she continued, her voice steady. "I realized that I was looking for validation from someone else instead of communicating with you. I've been apologizing to myself for the mistakes I made, and I want to take responsibility for my actions." I took a sip of my coffee, processing her words. "That's a big step," I said cautiously. "But I need to know that it's not just empty words. Actions matter much more now than they ever did before." "I get that," she replied, her eyes locking onto mine. "I want to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve. I miss you and I've missed us. I know I hurt you and I can't take that back, but I want to start rebuilding that trust." I felt a ping of hope, but I also felt the weight of the reality we faced. Rebuilding trust takes time, Anna. I can't just flip a switch and forget what happened. It will take effort from both of us. "I understand," she said earnestly. "I'm committed to doing whatever it takes. I want to be transparent with you, open about my feelings. I don't want to hide things anymore." Her honesty was refreshing, but I remained guarded. "What does that look like for you?" "I want to include you in my life," she explained. "I want you to know my friends, and I want to share my thoughts no matter how silly they might seem. I want to create an environment where we can both be vulnerable." That resonated with me, and I felt a flicker of the connection we once shared. "I appreciate that, but I also need to focus on myself. I'm still healing, and I need to prioritize my happiness too," I said, my voice firm but kind. "I get that. I promise not to pressure you. I just want to be part of your life again and see if we can find our way back to each other," she said, her expression earnest. We talked for hours, discussing everything from our hopes and fears to the mundane details of daily life. I learned that she had started a book club, something she had always wanted to do, and that she was reconnecting with old friends. It was refreshing to see her take initiative, and for the first time in weeks I felt that glimmer of hope flickering back to life. When the conversation shifted back to us, I felt a flutter of uncertainty. What if we tried dating again? Nothing serious, just. Let's see where it goes, Anna suggested with a hopeful smile. The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying. You mean like rekindling our relationship? I asked, trying to understand her intentions. Yeah, I've missed everything about you, and I think if we took it slow, we could rebuild what we had, she responded earnestly. But this time, we would communicate openly. I hesitated, weighing the possibilities. I had spent so much time focusing on healing and self-discovery that the idea of diving back into a relationship felt daunting. I think I'd be open to dating again, but we have to lay down some ground rules, I said cautiously. Of course, she exclaimed, nodding eagerly. First, we need to be completely honest about everything. If anything bothers us, we talk about it immediately. No secrets, I laid out. Absolutely. I can promise that, she replied, her enthusiasm infectious. And second, we should keep our expectations in check. We're not rushing into anything, I added. Agreed, she said, her smile faltering slightly. As we wrapped up our conversation, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I knew it wouldn't be easy and the road ahead was uncertain, but I felt ready to explore this new chapter with Anna, if only to see where it could lead. When we finally said our goodbyes, I noticed how the weight of our past felt a little less heavy. It was a step forward, and despite the challenges we faced, I felt a flicker of renewed hope for the future. As I drove home, I reflected on how far I'd come since the summer. The journey of self-discovery and healing had made me stronger. I realized that regardless of what happened next, I was committed to living my best life, one day at a time. Whether it meant rebuilding my marriage or moving on, I was finally in control, and that was a powerful feeling. The weeks that followed our meeting felt like a delicate balancing act. Anna and I began to explore our relationship again, cautiously stepping into the territory we once navigated with ease. We started going on casual dates, visiting our favorite restaurants, and even taking long walks in the park, which had been one of our cherished activities. Each interaction felt like a cautious dance, beautiful yet fraught with the memories of past betrayals. Initially, the excitement of reestablishing our bond overshadowed the lingering doubts. Yet, as time passed, it became clear that the shadows of our past still haunted us. There were moments when I would catch Anna's gaze wandering as if she were lost in her thoughts. I would often wonder if she still thought about Jake or if she was truly committed to rebuilding our relationship. During one of our dates, I decided to bring it up. You seem lost in thought sometimes. Is everything okay? I asked, my voice steady but tinged with concern. She hesitated, biting her lip. I'm just worried, Mark. I don't want to mess this up again. I know I hurt you and I don't want to be the reason we fail. I reached across the table, taking her hand. We're both learning how to navigate this again. It's okay to be uncertain. It's part of the process. I just wish I could erase what happened, she replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I sighed, feeling the familiar ache in my chest. We can't erase it, but we can learn from it. I'm trying to move forward, but I need to know you're with me on this journey. I am, she said firmly. I'm all in. I've never wanted anything more than to make this work. As we continued to date, I found myself rediscovering the woman I fell in love with. We shared laughter, memories, and moments that reminded me of the intimacy we once had. There was a certain magic that felt palpable in the air, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild something beautiful from the ashes of our past. But the process was not without its challenges. The reminders of her affair occasionally surfaced. An old text message she received made my heart race with jealousy, or the way she would laugh a little too hard at a joke someone else made me question if her heart was genuinely with me. I had to remind myself that trust wasn't rebuilt overnight. It took time, patience, and open communication. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I decided to address my lingering fears. Anna, I want you to know that I'm really trying to trust you again, but there are moments when I struggle. I don't want to carry that burden forever. She turned to me, her expression earnest. I appreciate you being honest with me. I want you to feel safe with me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Then let's set some boundaries to help us both feel secure, I suggested. Let's agree to check in with each other regularly, no matter how silly it may seem. Agreed, she said, nodding. Let's be each other's support system. As the weeks turned into months, I began to see real progress. We established routines that allowed us to be open about our feelings, and I found myself falling in love with her all over again. The connection we shared felt deeper than before, forged through our struggles. But as much as we were growing together, I also recognized my own growth as an individual. I had reclaimed my happiness and independence during our time apart, and I refused to lose sight of that. I started planning weekend getaways with friends, pursuing my guitar lessons and prioritizing my mental health. I realized that my happiness didn't solely depend on Anna, it came from within. One day, as I strummed my guitar on our balcony, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I had learned the importance of self-love, and I cherished the moments of solace I found in my own company. Anna joined me outside, sitting beside me with a soft smile. "You look happy," she said, her voice soothing. "I am," I replied, my heart swelling. "I've realized that happiness starts from within. I can't rely on anyone else to fulfill me." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I think we both needed this journey to discover who we are outside of our relationship." As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I took a deep breath. I felt a renewed sense of hope for our relationship. We had a long way to go, but I was confident that we could navigate it together, learning from our past mistakes. In the end, I learned that love isn't just about the perfect moments. It's about growing together through adversity. It's about acknowledging the pain, facing the truth, and choosing to move forward with open hearts. As I looked at Anna, I saw not just my wife, but my partner in healing, my companion in life. I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we were ready to face them together. And maybe, just maybe, we could create a love story that was even more beautiful than the one we had lost.